Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our coverage of the SAP SAP Business Objects User Conference. I'm Courtney Bjorlin. I'm the co-editorial director on SAP News. We've been coming to you live from the conference all week, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Timo Elliot.
Hi,
Thank you so
good
much.
afternoon.
Welcome you back into the studio this year. That's great.
Thank you for having me.
So for those of our audience watching that may not know you, tell us a little bit about your unique role at SAP.
So my background is 20 years at SAP Business Objects, and I am a technology evangelist for the company. My job is to explain the big trends and how they make a difference to companies' businesses.
And on that note, you had a very interesting presentation here at the conference titled Inspiring Analytics. So how can we get inspired by analytics, Timo?
Well, first, realize that today's business really is powered by analytics. Analytics has never been more important to today's businesses. I like to use the example of saying that the analogy of business is like surfing. So we've heard a lot over the years of how important strategy is in businesses, but strategy is a little bit like choosing the right wave.
Okay.
It's really important, but in some ways it's the easy part. The hard part is staying on the wave. In business today, as in surfing, you have to constantly be scanning for the changes to the environment. Everything's always unstable, always moving. And you need to guide your business on the right trajectory to make best use of the wave and avoid a wipeout. And to do that, it takes analytics. So it's not surprising that analytics is by far the #1 technology priority for both CIOs and CFOs in today's organizations.
So when we're talking about staying on the wave and finding the right wave, you know, it's a lot easier, and we've heard this from some of our customers that we've been talking with on the show floor, if you're starting from the top down. You know, you're buying the analytics software, you're starting from this point, but there's so many of our customers that have these age-old ERP systems and they're starting from the bottom up. How do you reconcile that and make sure that the data is of good quality, that you're finding the right waves to identify?
So there's no magic, but there's been some massive technology changes over the last couple of years in memory, column stores, and I'm sure many of your guests have talked about the advantages of those things. In particular, my presentation deliberately did not talk about any of that, and just really talked about how those technologies overall mean that you can do new things in the businesses. Again, it's a little bit like 20 years ago, if you wanted to do special effects, you had to be Spielberg. He was the only one who could afford that kind of technology power. These days, 20 years later, anybody with a PC can do great special effects. That doesn't make them Spielberg. Ironically, the better the technology has gotten, and we are getting it easier to grab data quickly and flexibly, the better the technology gets, the more important the human aspects get. The creativity and really the ability to translate the technology into things that actually make a difference to the business. And in most organizations, you have people who understand the business, people who understand the technology, but they're not always having the right conversation together. And particularly now, when the technology has gone through a big change, there are new possibilities. And my session was about helping people identify some of the areas that people should be looking at. Sort of just, here are some ideas of companies that have been using analytics in new and interesting ways to really make a difference in their business. Now is the chance for you to go back to your business, talk to your business contacts, and work together to see if any of these examples can fit and make a difference to your business.
I really like that image of an example of the human element being so important now because the technology has come so far. Can you tell us, though, a little bit more about that last point? What are some of the specific ways that the customers are really rethinking the business processes?
So it's really about imagination and where people are starting. So I split my presentation into 3 levels, if you like, of how people are using analytics. And the first and most obvious is removing today's bottlenecks. And that's the kind of areas where people have known that they've wanted to do something for a while, but the technology has just not been feasible. So the classics are, you need data faster. using HANA, new in-memory technologies. But it's also mobile devices, getting data out to new people on the factory floor or people out of the office. It's access to different types of data, unstructured information, combining it with structured information, social media data, for example. And sometimes the blocking element is really just making sure that your data is being used to change behavior. One of my favorite examples is Cleveland Clinic. They use lots of data as part of their hospital systems. And one of the best data sets is they have a compliance department to make sure that people are washing their hands. Because they've crunched the number and they know that that causes infections. It's very important. And so they had this data set, but compliance was relatively low. People were not washing their hands enough. And they didn't do any great analysis or anything, but they took that data, put it on dashboards in the nurses' quarters and the doctors' areas, and did it a ranking. So you can imagine being the surgeon who's at the top of the list. The human behavior changed very fast. And the reason I like that example is it wasn't complex analysis. It wasn't deep analytics, data quality problems, but it did make a real difference to the number of infections and the number of people who remained healthy.
That's a great example. We actually had Cleveland Clinic in our studio this week, so they were talking about that. But thanks so much, Timo, for joining us. Always some great advice for us. And you can catch more of our interviews as well as Timo's whole session on asugonline.com. Please also look to our YouTube channel, and that's ASUG TV on that channel. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.